Hi, I'm Amy, and this is A-Star Reads, and it's time for week 3 in the Battle of the Children's Picture Books. So this is a series I started because I'm currently taking a children's literature course, and I have to read a ton of picture books. And I thought, oh, this would be a great opportunity to talk to you about picture books and kind of my experience of learning more about picture books and how I'm supposed to kind of look at them as an educator, but then also tell you what I'm feeling about the books I'm picking up. I'm trying to get a really big variety, and I've got quite a few there, but I've also got way more on hold at the library. So I'm seeing what I can get through. I've taken a few recommendations, so thank you for anybody who has given me recommendations. It's been fun to see what you guys enjoyed, and we're just gonna get started. So I've got 8 books this week to go through. I'm gonna rank them in order of 8 being my least favorite through 1 being my favorite. And that doesn't mean I didn't like the ones that are lower on the list, just means that they weren't quite up to the standards for me of the ones at the top. Also, once I end my class and I get through all these children's picture books, I'm gonna take my top rated books from each week and I'm going to compare those. I'm gonna rate those ones as well and see what my favorite picture book of this whole process was. And I'm really excited because I have some amazing books at number 1, and that's gonna be a really hard set to go through. I'm a little nervous about that, but let's worry about that later. So right now, I'm gonna start with number 8, which is The Cool Bean by Jory John and Pete Oswald. Now, this is a very popular series. This is the 3rd book in the series. The first book is The Bad Seed. The second book is The Good Egg. Then you've got The Cool Bean, The Couch Potato, and there's one more that I didn't read, but I don't remember what it was. After reading this one, I wanted to read the other ones because I had read part of The Bad Seed before, and I wanted to finish reading that one. But for my class, I can only read 1 in a series, so this was the one I had originally picked up, so I counted this for my class. And I really liked this. It was very cute and fun. I actually loved The Bad Seed, so I liked that one a lot more. And The Good Egg, which was the second one. Those were my 2 favorite of this series so far. This is the 3rd, and my least favorite was actually The Couch Potato. So book number 4 was not, it didn't do it for me. Just put it that way. And it wasn't bad, it just didn't do it for me. And this was so cute though, because it's about this little garbanzo bean, a little chickpea, and he had this group of friends that he was really close to for a while, but they kind of grew apart, which was okay. Those other beans that he was really good friends with became the cool beans. And look at these guys, they're pretty darn cool. And basically it's talking about how his friends are the cool beans now, and he wants to be a cool bean, but he is not a cool bean in how he determines what a cool bean is. But things take a turn, and our little chickpea figures out what it really means to him to be a cool bean. So it was cute, and it had a great message, and all of these are really based in humor. So they've got important messages that are underlying this humorous content, and it's funny. It is funny. I think The Bad Seed was the most funny, where I laughed out loud, and I just couldn't stop laughing. It was just so cute. And this one was fun and cute as well. I know that this is a popular series. A lot of kids love this. In fact, this one needs to get back to the library because there's like 3 or 4 holds on it already. And so for kids, this is going to be a great one because of the humor and because the artwork is very simplistic, but it's also very fun and adorable. You know, like, look at that face. So this is a good one for children. I just think that for myself, I liked the other ones better. Book number 7 is All the Fish in the World by David Opie. This is a book that I don't think very many people have read. It's not very widely circulated. So hopefully if you're interested in kids learning more about fish, you pick up this book and share it with your kids because it's beautiful. And some of the content is really fascinating. Like, I loved what I got to learn about fish in this. I mean, granted, I knew a lot of the stuff already because I got my degree in biology, but there were some really complex thoughts and ideas that were portrayed in this about fish, like the differences between fish. So in this book, we're following 2 main characters. We've got Mud Skipper and we've got Trout. And Trout is saying, like, this is what fish are. And Mud Skipper's saying, no, I know you think that this is what fish are, but fish are actually a lot of different things. So he's saying, like, it's easy to say what fish are. They have scales, pairs of fins, backbones, they live underwater, and they're cold-blooded, and they breathe through their gills. So that's his idea of what a fish is. And Mud Skipper takes the rest of the book to prove to him that there are many different types of fish that are still considered fish that don't have these criteria. And so the cool thing about this is you're getting to learn about a lot of different types of fish and what makes them unique and not fit the mold of what a fish is supposed to be. And so I really loved this for the artwork. The artwork is stunning. The prose was cool because you learn a lot, but I think it's a little much for some kids. I don't know about a read aloud necessarily, but an explore book. So you could explore this with children or give them time to explore it, because it would take time to go through this because the content is a little heavy and dense. There's a lot going on in this book. So I think that it's very useful and valuable and much more interesting than, say, a textbook. But it feels like a little much if children are just going to sit down and pick up a picture book and try and read it. I recommend it, and I did like it. I think it would be fun for more people to get an opportunity to read more about fish, because I think fish are amazing, and we undervalue fish a lot. We value them as food, but we kind of undervalue fish a little bit as far as what makes them amazing. All right, book number 6 is Finding Winnie, The True Story of the World's Most Famous Bear by Lindsay Mattick, illustrated by Sophie Blackall. And this one is the nonfiction story of the bear who eventually inspired Winnie the Pooh. And it's written by Lindsay Mattick, who was, I think, the great-granddaughter of this man who rescued this bear during World War I. It was very interesting to hear this very narrative style of this family history. I like some elements of this a lot, especially the family tree at the end. I think that would be a fun thing to go over with children and discuss family lines and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. And then what I really thought was neat was this family album. So she actually had pictures of different things that she talked about in the book and was able to give us that perspective so we can see the pictures behind this story, which, you know, it's all illustrated here, but then we can see the actual people here. There was a lot that I liked about this. It was not the best formatted story. I didn't think it was formatted very well, and that's why it wasn't my favorite book of the books I've been reading. And I'm not really a Winnie the Pooh person. Like, I did like some Winnie the Pooh when I was a child, but I feel like this would be really awesome and nostalgic for people who love Winnie the Pooh, or children who love Winnie the Pooh would love to hear about the namesake for Winnie the Pooh. So, like, there's good things about this, and I really did enjoy it. I think it was a fun way to teach history, this narrative style, and I recommend it. I think it was really good, and if you love Winnie the Pooh, definitely read it. Book number 5. This is Vamos, Let's Cross the Bridge by Raul III, colors by Elaine Bay. And this is a fun, almost kind of Where's Waldo-y book. Not like it's actually Where's Waldo, but it's one of those books where sometimes the imagery is so complicated and so intricate that it can get a little overwhelming. So I think for students who struggle with reading or struggle with too much going on in one page, this is going to be harder for them. But I could see a lot of kids just having so much fun searching for things in this. I know that as a kid, I would have loved this because this is a comedy book. You can find all these little individual pictures that have their own story going on in a sense. Now, as an adult, this is overwhelming. And reading this, I was like, oh, there's too much going on here. But as a kid, I would have loved this because it gives me that Where's Waldo vibe. And there's something special about being able to see what's going on in every single little part of this picture. What I really loved about this is it's pretty much half and half Spanish and English. And a lot of times when they're saying something in Spanish, they reiterate it in English. There's a lot of Spanish words next to certain things, like patineta is a skateboard. And so they give you a lot of words to learn in Spanish. And they actually have a glossary in the back, but he recommends that if you want to know more about these Spanish words, you can look them up in a Spanish-English dictionary. And so this is a really cool opportunity for both Spanish speakers and English speakers to learn the other language. And I just thought it was clever, it was fun, the story was cute, there was a lot of humor in this. It was adorable. This was an adorable book. There's a lot of color, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of music that comes out at you from this book. A lot of talking about food. This is about Lobo and Cookie and their delivery truck drivers. And what they do is, the reason we go, let's go over the bridge, is because they live like in Juarez next to El Paso, and people in those border towns tend to go back and forth, either for shopping, visiting family, to go to work. And so this is their experience driving over the bridge from Juarez to El Paso, and they hit some traffic because everybody decides they want to go over the bridge that day. And the cultural element of this is fantastic. You get to learn so much about this unique Mexican-American culture and what it's like to live on the edge of the border. So I just thought this was really cool. This was really cool, really fun, and definitely one of those really eye-appealing books for certain kids who love to look at a lot of different things. All right, book number 4 is a book that I really loved. So it's almost hard with these last 4 books because these last 4 books were books that were just fantastic to me. And so I can't wait to talk about this one. This is called Outside In by Deborah Underwood, and it's illustrated by Cindy Derby. And this one just was gorgeous. The watercolor was so spectacular in this book. It just was stunning. And it's about how sometimes we're not out in nature, and we should be out in nature, and we kind of get separated from that time where we have moments where we can spend outside. But then I liked that the author really brought out how nature is all around us, even inside our house. Like she was talking about chairs and how the chairs are made of wood, which was previously trees, and how we bring in fruits and vegetables. And so what I really enjoyed about this was the prose was so lyrical and beautiful. You could actually smell and see the things that she was describing just beautifully. And so I liked how she portrayed mood by, this is indoors and look how dark it is. And then you've got outdoors and it's bright and colorful. So she's not trying to say that being indoors is bad. She's just trying to get people to get out in nature more. And I just thought that the artwork was stunning. I'm so impressed with watercolor, because I think watercolor is such a hard medium to work with, and this artist did an incredible job. So Cindy Derby did an amazing job on this book. It is a beautiful book. For book number 3, I have We Are the Water Protectors. This is by Carole Lindstrom. It's illustrated by Michaela Goad. This is inspired by this Standing Rock protest against the pipeline and how Indigenous nations value water, and explaining how water is a part of all of us, how important water is, and how if we destroy our water sources, we are going to be destroying ourselves ultimately. It's a great way to hear someone's story in a way that's very social justice forward, but also touches you because it's very personal, and you see the value that our protagonist has with water and why it's so important to her and her people that we protect and preserve the water that we have. So this was interesting because I picked this up to read it because I've been wanting to read this one. I've heard about it before. And we actually had a lesson in my science class where our teacher read this to us because we were talking about the water cycle, and we were talking about Indigenous ways of knowing and how science, there's so many different perspectives of science, and we tend to think of science as a Western forward perspective. And so we're trying to look at science in the different ways that people from other cultures know science, use science, and why science is important to everyone, and why we can't just use our own perspective on science. And I loved this for that, and I loved that she presented this book to us. The artwork is stunning, and the author is actually Anishinaabe Métis, and the artist is Tlingit from Canada. So it was great to see Anishinaabe, Tlingit, and Sioux people come together to put forward this message that is very important to all of us. Love this. If you get a chance to read this, and read this to your kids, I think this is an amazing social justice book that gets a message across very, very well. My book number 2 is one that I am so excited about. This one is I Am Every Good Thing by Derrick Barnes and Gordon C. James. I think the artwork's by Gordon C. James. And this is poetic, so it's a poetry book. I wouldn't say it's individual poems, I'd say it's one long poem. And the artwork in this is it's just stunning. It has so much emotion, so much feeling to it. The artwork matches the verse very, very well. And this is a book that celebrates young Black boys because the author wanted to make a tribute to Trayvon Martin and a lot of the other young boys who have been killed unlawfully. And I just thought it was so wonderful for him to look at all these amazing aspects to a part of society that doesn't get any recognition and often gets portrayed poorly. And so it was so stunning. Like this one and did bring a lot of tears. They're all these amazing things. They're every good thing. They're every good thing, and it was beautiful to see this positive book that just shared all the amazing things about these boys that don't necessarily get that recognition. I think Barnes did a great job of getting the emotions through with the verse. It was just gorgeous. His writing is gorgeous. The artist did amazing, gorgeous work. This was a beautiful book. I loved it so much. Book number 1 was a book that was visceral to me. It gave me so many feelings of, like, I could smell everything, I could see everything. This felt like an experience that I have experienced before. And I just thought that the writing and the art was so incredible in this book. I'm gonna go with The Night Walk by Marie Dorleans. She's French, so I don't know how to pronounce that correctly. But that's Dorleans, Marie. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. Sorry, I'm butchering it probably. But this is a simple concept. They get up in the middle of the night and they're going on this night walk and they're going to find a surprise. Like they're trying to get somewhere in time for a surprise. And it is so simple. It's so simple of a story, but the artwork and the way she created mood and setting and smells and feelings all through her prose. This author slash illustrator is like a genius. Like, she's a genius. I couldn't get past how these pictures and the way she described them made me feel. It, like I said, it was visceral. I felt it. I felt everything about this book. I thought it was stunning. There's no incredibly deep message except for maybe about nature and getting out more in nature and spending time with your family. I guess there are some pretty deep messages in this. But for me, it was all about how I felt reading this, and it was incredible. It was incredible. I think this is an immersive book. I recommend it if you haven't had a chance to read it. I loved it. I really, really loved it. So this is my #1 pick for the week. I'm so excited. I had some really amazing books with incredible messages, but with this one, I had to go with what felt the most amazing book for me to read this week, and that was The Night Walk. So I'm really excited about this one. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see what happens on week 4. I'm gonna be reading more, and I can't wait to see which one I love next week the most. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you later. Bye.